The Hangar Z podcast welcomes Lieutenant Commander Nathan Jones and AST-2 Zachary Sowers of the United States Coast Guard's Air Station Clearwater.
Yeah, so we got launched. It was our last full day deployed down to up at Great Anagua in the Bahamas, and a cruise ship had picked up 6 survivors in a raft, and they had said that their boat had gone down trying to sail from Dominican Republic to Turks and Caicos, and that there were 6 other people in the water.
Welcome to the Hangar Z podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts and partnered with Vertical Valor Plus. Thank you to the 2026 Blades of Valor Tour sponsor, Switlik Survival Products, and the support of Massif Flight Suits. Without your sponsorship and support, this tour would not be possible. Switlik Survival Products supports aviation, marine, military, and search and rescue with a wide variety of high-quality survival products. To learn more, go to switlik.com. The Blades of Valor Tour spotlights public safety aviation units recognized for outstanding service and celebrates those who go above and beyond. We aim to promote the good work of these agencies and highlight the standard of excellence they set. These teams serve as a benchmark for the public aviation community. Our mission is to share their stories of unwavering commitment, courage, innovative leadership, teamwork, and technological innovation from agencies setting the standard in public safety aviation. Today's episode comes to you from inside the hangar at United States Coast Guard Air Station Clearwater, the final stop of the 2026 Blades of Valor Tour. Joining us are MH-60T pilot Lieutenant Commander Nathan Jones and helicopter rescue swimmer Zachary Sowers, 2 Coast Guard professionals whose journeys to this moment are as inspiring as the missions they fly. Nate comes from a proud family legacy of service. He began his career in the Coast Guard Reserve before earning an appointment to the United States Coast Guard Academy. Through discipline, perseverance, and an unwavering commitment to excellence, he eventually earned his wings of gold and now flies the powerful MH-60T Jayhawk, one of the most capable search and rescue platforms in the world. Zach's path started with a life-altering near-drowning experience as a young boy. What could have been tragedy became motivation. Swimming lessons turned into competitive success, which led to a Division I scholarship, work as a lifeguard, and eventually a calling to serve, becoming one of the Coast Guard's elite rescue swimmers. Today, he is the one entering the water in the worst conditions imaginable so others can make it home. In this episode, we discuss incredible real-world rescues and the relentless, constant training that keeps these air crews sharp and ready at a moment's notice. We learn more about Air Station Clearwater's mission set, the vast area they cover, and the extraordinary support personnel behind the scenes, the maintainers, operations specialists, and ground crews whose expertise makes every launch possible and every rescue achievable. You'll also gain a deeper insight into the MH-60T Jayhawk, its capabilities, mission versatility, and why it remains such a critical asset for maritime search and rescue, law enforcement, and disaster response. From powerful rescue stories to the disciplined preparation that makes them possible, this conversation highlights teamwork, trust, and a shared commitment to saving lives. Thank you to our sponsors, Onboard Systems Hoist and Winch, Shotover Systems, and Precision Aviation Group.
Welcome to the Hangar Z podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts. The Hangar Z podcast is the first and only podcast dedicated to promoting and exploring the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation.
Still southbound, skidding to a stop. Stand by here. Looks like you're getting ready to bail. Heads up, guys, bailing. Okay, the guy, he's running through the house, jumping the fence, through the shotgun, through something out. Grabbing the shotgun. Don't go over that fence. Don't go over that fence. Grab the shotgun again. He is armed. Stay there. Hold your position.
There was a guy, he's since retired. He's a good friend of mine named Travis Peck. We used to, when they would wrap us up, they've changed now, but there was escapes and releases if someone actually wrapped you up, how to hit these pressure points and throw them off you.
Right.
And the way you did it during practice is you put your hands behind your back and you closed your eyes and you just had to fin at them. And you knew it was coming. They'd splash you and kind of get you to flinch. And he hit me so hard, he split the bridge of my nose. And we flipped about near completely upside down, and it was the hardest I've ever been squeezed, just his chest right on my face. But I've never forgot it, and luckily I've never been grabbed like that.
But you're ready for it now.
Exactly.
You experienced it already. Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah, the instructors out there are great. It prepares you for the job, but doesn't necessarily teach you the ins and outs of the job, if that makes sense. Right.
Very cool. Oh man, what a cool story. And starting with a near drowning.
Yep.
Wow. Do you remember that day?
Vaguely. It was a hot tub. It was a big hot tub. And I remember my dad saying, I forgot towels or something. He left and he said, "Don't get in the water." And I said, "I'm getting in the water."
Oh boy.
But it was a big in-ground hot tub that jets on. I jumped in. I was not expecting it to be deep and or 100 and however many degrees.
Right.
So I sunk straight to the bottom. Lifeguard jumped in, grabbed me, and then that was pretty much the end of that day.
Wow. That's incredible. But look at where you are now.
Yep.
That's just really incredible. Nate, you've got a fascinating background too. Share with us growing up and education and ending up your route to the United States Coast Guard.
Yeah, my influence to joining this line of work is pretty easy because I grew up in it. So I was born into a Coast Guard family for my entire childhood. Yeah, I grew up in the Coast Guard. So born in Elizabeth City, North Carolina, moved around all over. I consider the Great Lakes area my home. I've lived in Wisconsin a few times, Northern Michigan a couple times. That's where my best friends reside. And my parents retired, settled down in Astoria, Oregon. So growing up, I got to see these things firsthand as a little kid. I mean, how cool is it to sit in your dad's place of work and look at all these helicopters and hear all these awesome stories and see what they do. Why would I ever want to do anything else? I wasn't sure I wanted to be a helicopter pilot, but I knew that some type of military service is probably what I was leaning towards. I was always the kid taping the paper towel tube to my hockey stick, playing Army Man in the woods, But I think around high school was when I really knew I'm looking at colleges. What do I want to do? I think that joining the military is awesome. There's awesome people. It seems like no matter where we moved, even as hard as moving is as a kid, no matter where we moved, there's awesome people there, and they're all moving too. And you get to know a lot of great folks doing that. So I think around tail end of high school, for getting into trouble as a young high schooler, I decided to enlist in the Coast Guard first, and it's something that my older brother had already done. So he's a Coast Guard helicopter pilot. He had enlisted out of high school into the Coast Guard, did the reserves through college, and then went OCS to flight school from there. I thought, what a great path. You get to join the service early, go to college, and you get to have this awesome job on the weekends or in the summertime whenever you do your reserve drills. Well, it turns out Coast Guard offers a program. I don't know how common this is, but at 17, I was able to get my vice principal, I think, to sign a letter saying I'm not going to fail out of high school, and my parents to sign a waiver saying that I can be handed over to the government. And I went to boot camp between my senior of high school and then spent my senior year of high school as a drilling reservist in the Coast Guard. So I'd already kind of had I was part of the service at that point, and I knew that's what I wanted to do. Applying to colleges, I wound up getting into the Coast Guard Academy, which I didn't think that would work. And so I was kind of torn. I had this idea of going to college and following the same path my brother had taken, which was pretty neat, or accepting a academy appointment, which, if you don't know, that means free college, a guaranteed job, and a commission as an officer, which how can you say no to that?
Yeah,
so,
that's a great opportunity.
So I knew it was a big sacrifice, but I accepted the appointment and then spent the next 4 years at the academy learning how to be an officer in the Coast Guard.
Wow. Jack knows I'm going to deviate here for a minute because
I
love the conversation surrounding the academies.
Yes.
The academies to me are so unique for a ton of reasons. There's not many schools you can graduate as an undergrad, and it really makes a difference as far as the employer looking at it and be like, oh, I know this person is squared away because of this school they went to. The academies, in my mind, they're that level of education is that. It's an Ivy League school in my mind. I've heard so much positive feedback on the Coast Guard Academy, and not to throw shade on any of the others, but it seems like the Coast Guard Academy is very unique. Talk about your experience there and what some of your takeaways were as a student.
It's definitely unique, largely due to its size and its history. So it's a much smaller service academy than the others. So you have a class of starting about 300 maybe, and you leave with, I want to say 240 was the graduating number. Don't quote me on that. So relatively small class, and you focus on academics. I do believe it's a very good education there. You're getting a great education at zero cost, monetary cost at least, and then you're focusing on athletics and all of your military development. So they're pushing you to each year is a different phase of that development, and by the time that you finish, you are now expected to be prepared to go hold the role as a brand new ensign on a cutter traditionally. Which, when you start as an ensign, you're the new guy on the block. You're going to show up to a boat and you're going to get told what to do and learn how to do your job. That's kind of they call you butter bar. And anyways, I wanted to go to flight school out of there, and going back to my experience as a student, I would say I was not the most studious. I graduated in the top 80%, which I'm proud of, but I did graduate. So
yeah,
it's a great experience. I'm proud that I stuck it out and made it through. But it's certainly a great opportunity for anyone who's looking to get into the service and get a good education in the process.
Yeah, it's such a cool experience, and a lot of people say that it's a great place to be from, whereas I feel like the Coast Guard Academy is a great place to be and a great place to be from. So cool you got to experience that.
Yeah.
Very cool. And I did see that coming, John. It's one of those things, we have a lot of people that have been at one of the academies over the years, and I agree with everything John said about it. I mean, that's impressive, and that was a good route, even though it was different than your brother's.
Yeah.
In hindsight, you're happy you went that way, right?
Happy I went that way. I didn't have student loans, and I got into that line of work that I wanted to.
Oh.
I didn't get into flight school right away. Going back to my student performance, but I went to spent 2 years on a ship that I enjoyed the hell out of in the Great Lakes, breaking ice and working buoys. It was a fantastic job, and I believe that at that age, 22-year-olds probably need a little bit of development before going and be put in charge of the controls and working with crews. So I'm glad I did that, and then flight school 2 years later.
We have to ask you, because this winter they're busy up there ice breaking right now.
Yeah,
it's I saw some footage the other day. It's unbelievable. Talk about that ice breaking. What is that? I bet the vast majority of people don't even know that there's ice breaking being done by Coast Guard on the Great Lakes. Tell us about that a little bit.
Definitely. Yeah, so I was based out of Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin, just outside of Green Bay, Wisconsin. And all throughout the wintertime, most of the lakes freeze over, the Great Lakes. And what most people don't know is there's a huge amount of commerce that's traveling through those lakes. And that was one of the primary sources of search and rescue and medevacs from my time at Air Station Traverse City. It was off of those Lakers, we call them. And a lot of them are old World War II cargo ships converted to civilian tankers or bulk carriers. And the Coast Guard is there to ensure that the waterways remain navigable throughout the wintertime as they freeze over. And they'll also respond. They'll perform SAR in their own way. And you may have seen this in the news a few times this year. Those ships will get stuck in the ice as the pressure waves pinch them in, and the cutters will go out, actually break them out, break a hole, and then continue to break the way for them to get to their destination. So awesome job. It's the only job in the Coast Guard where you probably are getting paid to drive your ship into stuff on purpose. So I had a lot of fun. The little kid in me loved rocking the throttle from 0 to 100 and rolling coal. It was an awesome time.
Wow. And you're creating lanes that the ships can work. Are they set lanes, like lat lawn kind of? You're making highways through the ice?
They are set where the channels would be marked with buoys in the summertime.
Right.
Most of those buoys are removed because they'll get crushed by the ice. Where those lanes would be, which are GPS points, that's where these ships are marking those lanes, so that you're.
That's the buoy side of that job. That's what you were talking about. You said buoy and ice
yes,
breaking.
Yeah. You want to guarantee the safe navigation of these deep draft vessels.
Very cool. That's interesting. We learn a lot here on the Hangar Z, don't we?
Yeah.
I mean, it's fascinating. So we'll stay with you for a minute, Nate, and talk about this air station. This particular Coast Guard air station, personnel, equipment, airframes, whatever you want to tell us about the overall view of Air Station Clearwater.
You got it. Yeah. Well, historically, Air Station Clearwater is the busiest air station in the Coast Guard. Since I've been here, it's slowly downsized as the H-60 fleet laydown changes. We've gone from 10 H-60s when I first got here to 6 now. So we've got 6 aircraft. One of them is constantly deployed to a little island down in the Bahamas where we have a forward operating base. So we've got 5 here at home station, 4 C-27 cargo planes. And our primary mission here, what we give as our primary service is search and rescue support to the entire state of Florida, all the way out into the Gulf, 200 to 300 miles, then everything off the East Coast. And then in addition, we've got our deployment site down on an island called Great Anagua, which is right off the northern tips of Haiti and Cuba. And that's a little bit of a different mission down there. We're providing SAR support from an international perspective, but we're also supporting what's called Operation Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, which is it's a counter-drug operation between the DEA and those countries down there and the Coast Guard, dating back to around the 80s, the Escobar days, if you will.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, Jack, but I wouldn't mind being operational in the Bahamas.
Yeah,
South Florida.
No, it's terrible.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
I think I could deal with that.
If you gotta be deployed, you might as well be deployed to the Bahamas. Which brings on area of operation. You just described in that description that you just gave. You just described a very wide area. What is the area of operation for this air station?
Yep, it's all of that. It's a massive area of operation. And being positioned where we're at, it's the most central location for covering all of that. But going offshore, off the East Coast, we'll typically have to fly across the East Coast, refuel there, and then that'll maximize our legs offshore that way. When I was first stationed here, we had the C-130Hs, which were very, very high endurance aircraft, very long range. We've transitioned to the C-27, giving us the same support and comms coverage when we need it way out offshore. But the AOR is relatively huge.
Yeah, it sounds humongous. What's the furthest you've gone, not on a deployment, but on a mission?
Farthest offshore was about 230 miles for we were just pulling a sick crew member off of a cruise ship that was transiting. That was a relatively easy day, but we've got the legs for it.
Yeah.
And if you got to do a little bit of deliberate planning beforehand to ensure you're not going to put yourself in a bad spot.
Yeah.
But I'd say that the farthest I've gone on an actual nighttime SAR case is about 190 miles, and that was out of out of Great Anagua, and that was a case that was down south of Haiti and Cuba, which is not an area that we typically are flying unless we have a specific mission.
Right. So switch gears over to the more of the missions and the variety of them, Zach. Talk about, the types of missions are there's probably some things you can't even think of that will happen eventually. But in general, what are the typical types of missions that you're ready for, that your team is ready for?
We're ready for pretty much anything. It depends on what unit you are in. Obviously, the guys, for example, in the Pacific Northwest, do a lot more vertical surface stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Here, we're a lot more, I don't want to say marine based, but we obviously don't have cliffs and mountains that people can get into trouble on. So here, people come here for the deployment to Great Anagua and to do that mission, and people come here for hurricanes and for hurricane response. We are able to do everything that they need to. If they need to deploy me to a roof, we've trained that in the shop and how to excavate people from a roof and stuff like that. But anything they throw at us, our training, and especially the longer you get in it, the more sea schools is what we call them you go to, the Swiftwater Sea School, the Arctic Sea School, the Advanced Helicopter Rescue School, broadens your level of practice that you're able to accomplish those missions.
Nice. you personally, no, as a swimmer, not you personally, but as a swimmer, I don't know if you call it a kit or what you wear. Is there a standard way that you're getting into that helicopter for a mission, or does it depend on the type of mission, how much of that equipment is in there when you get to work in the morning, and how much is on you? Could you describe that kind of overall equipment for you as a swimmer?
Of course. So we have standard SAR configuration. That's a good thing that we talked about earlier, is like the uniformity of the Coast Guard is that any 60 that you get into, if it is fitted for search and rescue, is going to be relatively the same. It's going to have the exact same equipment in there. There's a basket, which is a big metal cage, basically. That's like a pretty standard bread and butter. Just throw someone in it, hoist them up. Sling and a strop are things that they would go up with me. I would attach that to me, put it around them, and then we could hoist that. There's a litter, which is a metal backboard that we can hoist to, which is, if it's a big person, someone with a back problem, that's an option. There's a dewatering pump on there. If the hoist fails for some reason, we have an Atlas, which is something else that they can hoist me from out of the water. We have vests that I can deploy to and I can give to survivors if they don't have life jackets. We have a drop radio and a quick splice, which is if we have to manually cut the hoist.
I saw that box in there, Mark, the drop radio.
Yeah.
There's a box in the back.
Yep.
So you could toss that to somebody in distress, or you could give it to them and be able to communicate. Okay.
And then my gear personally depends on the weather, but either a wetsuit or a dry suit. Dry suit right now because the water is mid-50s.
Yep.
And then we have our Triton, which is our harness that has a bunch of gear, and you can kind of modify it. You need specific gear like a PLB. You got your knife. Pyro is going away, but we had pyro. Our radios, standard things that are gonna, if something happens, I can communicate and get Nate's attention.
Right.
Of like, hey, here I am, or this is what I want to happen.
Or this just changed.
This just changed. Hey, this is nothing like what they told us it was.
We can relate to that.
Yeah. Flight helmet, swimmer helmet, gloves, fins.
Yeah.
You're pretty much ready to go.
How much are you changing in the back of that on the way, or are you getting in to the aircraft already suited for that?
Thank you to our sponsor, Shotover. Shotover Systems is the leading developer and manufacturer of high-performance gyro-stabilized cameras with advanced real-time AR mapping and mission management, all backed by unparalleled custom training and support. Now offering the M2 multi-sensor system, sole 6-axis EO/IR platform with 4K Ultra HD color and infrared technology. Ideal for law enforcement and defense. Offered with real-time AR overlays to quickly identify streets, weather, and traffic. Automated license plate recognition, 24-megapixel digital photographs, and automated steering and tracking.
Like I said, it keeps going back to all depends.
Okay.
I've changed.
I love that. Hey, I love it depends.
Yeah.
I give that answer a lot over the years.
I've been naked in the back of that helicopter a decent amount for a brief time. Maybe that's not the right thing.
There's a reason we don't have a rear view mirror.
It depends. Well, if something were to happen, these flight suits are to a certain level. I don't want to say flame retardant, but a wetsuit is not at all.
Yeah.
And a wetsuit is also just for pure comfort is not comfortable. If we're going to go on a search for someone and, we search for 4 hours and I'm just getting exhausted or just in that wetsuit.
Yeah.
What's 5 minutes for me to just have all my gear right there?
Right.
Change out really quick and then we're ready to go.
Yeah. You could, can you imagine? I mean, just on a hot Miami, Florida day, being in that suit for a long search and rescue, you could be exhausted without doing anything activity-wise. You could be exhausted already just from sweating in that thing.
The case we talked about earlier with that boat that had caught on fire where I changed out in the back because I was expecting, you do this for a while and you kind of are like, okay, I have everything I need, but it comes down to, hey, let's not jump the gun on this. We could be at this for a while. Sit back and, prepare. Don't exhaust yourself, off the get-go. We just happened to see that smoke, and we went right to him, and it was like, oh, I am getting wet today. Like, okay.
I didn't think I was, but now I am.
Yep.
Yeah. And it sounds like a lot of that's just from experience and personal preference that you got to be ready, but how you are dressed when you get in there, some of it's personal preference depending and based on your experience in the past.
Yeah. I mean, you're always going to have, it's either going to be a dry suit, which you can get wet in, or a flight suit or a wetsuit.
Yeah. Interesting.
Like, it doesn't really go besides those three. You're never going to really change that at all.
Wow. All right. So this beautiful MH-60 Tango behind us. Nate, talk about it. Tell us about this aircraft, its capabilities, anything you want to talk about this 60.
Sure. It's a beautiful beast.
It is.
I love it. The capabilities of this plane are awesome for what we do. It makes it an all-weather capable aircraft, which means we can fly into any weather conditions. Barring here in Florida, we have a standard practice of removing the de-icing equipment. So that's the one unique thing about Air Station Clearwater. We do not have the de-ice capabilities that all the other air stations do for obvious reasons.
It wasn't obvious last Saturday when we got to Florida.
Did you catch a little bit of snow?
Yeah, you guys got snow flurries up here, didn't you?
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
We got here
A little further north, but yeah.
Okay.
2 Saturdays ago, we got to Palm Beach, and we came out of the restaurant that evening, and the wind was blowing, and John and I have sweatshirts on, and it was like, are you kidding me? We're in Florida.
And I think that day, one of our duty crews here flew about 100 miles off the East Coast through snow
Is that something?
and picked someone up off a sailboat.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Just I think it was 2 Saturdays ago.
Yeah, that's we know that condition that day. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Iguanas dropping out of the sky, and oh my gosh, it's crazy.
Welcome
Crazy.
to Florida.
Yeah. So no de-icing on yours, but everything else is pretty standardized.
Right. Yeah. It's a twin engine aircraft, and what it gives us is great legs, meaning we have a lot of endurance, so we can fly those offshore cases. We got the 1 external tank and 2 on the left side there to give us an extra.
Brent Bundy told me those were torpedoes. Those aren't torpedoes.
Oh, they're not torpedoes.
That's what we tell the kids.
This one's torpedo. The little machine guns on the front. Yeah.
Yep.
Bundy.
Yeah,
We believe
plenty of extra gas we can bring along with us. And we've got a weather radar. We've got an infrared system that we can use to search at night, direction finders to search for emergency signals. Everything that we need to fly safely and locate somebody, for the most part, is included on this aircraft. I know we were talking about some of this new technology coming out that we wish we had, such as cell phone location technologies. We don't have any of that, but we have the bread and butter of searching and finding someone in distress.
I know it depends on power settings and everything, but generally, can you talk about range?
Sure. Yeah, down here in Florida, so being at sea level, most Coast Guard air stations are right at sea level. So we've got awesome power out of this aircraft, and we can generally fly about 250 is when you're going to start really looking at the numbers and figuring out how much time you're going to have. But so I'd give it about a 500 mile endurance with some reserve in there.
Yeah.
If you were to look at some numbers, you could pull 600 out though, but probably not down here in the summertime when it's hot, humid.
Right. That's amazing. Power. We got to talk about that a little bit yesterday when we were up, but talk about the power of this aircraft, not just into the wind, but with a tailwind. You can, obviously tailwind you have to be aware of and everything, but you can do things in this because of that power that other aircraft might not be able to. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Right, yeah. So we have a lot of prior H-65 folks that transition over to the H-60. And what I notice about these guys is that they are very good power management pilots.
Yeah.
And when we start flying on the H-60, we are not, because we're just blessed with all this power. Yeah. We've got everything we need. Not once have I ever, bar maybe one scenario I can think of where I've maybe reached the limit with tail rotor effectiveness. I've never had a situation where I was thinking, man, I wish I had more power in this plane.
Yeah.
It can always do what we need it to do at the weights we fly it at and the conditions we fly it at. So it's very powerful, and it's a great aircraft to have for what we do.
Wind. Is there a wind limitation or a gust limitation on this?
Other than our blade stall speeds, we can start up and up to 60 knots of wind if we're pointed wind or nose into the wind, I should say. And then the 35 knot side wind is pretty standard for most aircraft by design. So there's not really any in-flight wind once we're in the air. There's not really any wind limitations for us. And you'll hear stories of folks flying cases in 70 knots of wind, 80 knots of wind, and
Yeah, it's wild.
I've not done that, but it's capable of it.
We would catch ourselves in Santa Ana days crying. I mean, where it wasn't even close to that, but it was getting our attention. But we weren't flying aircraft that had the power of this,
right?
You know, and very, very interesting. I mean, one thing that always comes to mind when I look at this, I thought about it yesterday, is the Perfect Storm. You know, the movie vividly shows, you know, an aircraft in a very, very high winds, and it was, you know, you're able to operate. I mean, that's just amazing to me that you can go up in some terrible conditions, but that's when you're needed. That's when you got to get this guy from point A to point B to save lives, you know, when things are at their worst.
That's right.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Anything else about it that jumps out at you that's worth talking about? I mean, talk about tail rotor and the tail rotor effectiveness. I mean, it's 4-bladed.
Yeah, of course. I mean, this is it's a proven aircraft for decades now in multiple services. That the tail rotor it's unique in that it's got that sideward tilt. It's canted, so it actually in a hover does provide some lift for us. And that in combination with all of our AFCS, going back to talking about hoisting and manually controlling the aircraft while we're hoisting, that helps us out a huge amount. The stabilator on the rear of the aircraft is going to be just like you see it now. It's pointed full down. That's actually moving while we're in a hover. It's providing things like gust alleviation. It'll sense changes in the pitch.
And it does that all on its own.
It's going to do that on its own. So if you were to look closely, you would see some fluctuations. And then as we speed up, that trailing edge is going to start to rise, and it's going to provide a level pitch attitude as we accelerate. Without that, we can still fly. We can manually control it. We can fly without AFCS, but you're going to lose a lot of that gust alleviation, all of that controlled dampening that helps you remain smooth. It makes it a little more task saturated, if you will, while hovering.
If you had to pick one thing, I know there's a million things, but if you had to pick one thing, what do you like about it most? As a pilot, what do you like about this aircraft the most?
One thing, I'm confident that this aircraft can get me home every single time. It's got redundancy, it's got the power, and I know that if one thing fails, typically there's a backup to it, and that's just, you know, that's the design of the aircraft from the beginning. It was built to get shot at, and we're not typically, for the most part, we get shot at every once in a while. We're not typically getting shot at, but we've got that redundancy, and I know that if I go out, I'm not relying on just one thing to get us home. Yeah. The exception of, you know, the transmission or the tail rotor.
That's a big one. That's a big one, especially for what you do, going so far offshore. Goggles. Is everybody, including you, Zach, are you on goggles from time to time, depending on the mission in the back?
Typically not. So in my seat, which is the BA seat closest to, it's on the left side, I have the FLIR, the EOIR, right, which is the infrared camera. You can kind of see it off the front that I am operating, trying to find whoever's out there.
Yeah, you're trying to find the person that you're going to get in the water to help.
So typically not. I mean, sometimes a flight mech will hop up on goggles, but odds are I'm the only one.
Okay.
Not. I can, though, if I want to.
Okay, so it's available to you for certain things that might come in handy, but for the most part, you're the FLIR operator during a search and rescue.
Yeah, absolutely.
Talk about the value of goggles for what you do.
Oh, 100%. And like Zach said, the folks in the back typically aren't utilizing them because of their seating position, and they're looking out the sides. And anyone who's flown MVGs knows if you're just staring out the side, looking at the world pass by you, it can become disorienting, especially when you change your direction. But yeah, MVGs, we use them. We've got the white phosphor that we've transitioned to in the Coast Guard, which has been awesome. And anytime we're going on a nighttime case, we're utilizing them.
For those that don't know, tell us the big difference of going to the white phosphor.
Yeah, so your traditional green NVGs, they were great. I mean, they did their job. They're fantastic. But you find yourself on low illumination levels, a lot more scintillation, light halos from looking at focus points of light were a big issue. And so when we switch to the white, we go from that green scale to a gray scale, and the contrast is better. I find it's a little bit sharper of an image. It's brighter, It projects brighter into your eyes, so that is one downside, especially if you're on a high illum night and you're switching unaided to aided. It can be an issue. You have to prepare for that.
Right.
But generally, you can see and identify contrasts on objects better.
Regarding the 60 and your experience, what's the worst weather you have personally flown a 60 in?
Well, I'm in the Sunshine State, so Florida's not the best place to ask. I think the more challenging weather I've flown in was my time in Air Station Traverse City, up in the Great Lakes, where we're fighting the winter conditions up there. So we got very, very good, and we tried to get as proficient as we could at flying in low visibility, low ceilings up there. And that was very common during the wintertime with lake effect snow, fog, low ceilings. So that's the toughest thing, and that builds your ability to set decision gates and continuously reevaluate risk, because we may be going point A to point B, but we may have 10 different weather phenomena along the way, and at each point we need to reevaluate, is this even worth it? Can we make it through this? Are we going to go inadvertent IMC, or are we willing to go intentionally IMC, which is a realm that the Coast Guard routinely operates in.
Sure.
So,
wow.
And that's something that I think aviation in general struggles with, that decision gate concept you talked about. We continue to find ourselves in positions where people are making bad decisions.
Right.
I think you guys live in those environments a lot more than anybody else. I think people will take stock in the things that you say and the decision points that you bring up. So for a second, just talk about some of that decision making that you're a part of as a way to encourage folks that don't live in that environment in the way you do to really think through these decision points or decision gates that they find themselves at.
So an example would be in northern Michigan, one way we mitigated our low visibility flight was by designating low visibility routes. They were internal to us, but we knew if we need to get to the west side of Lake Michigan, we have a route that we've flown and verified VFR. In doing so, we've also determined certain choke points, for example, on those routes, and it helps us practice as we fly these routes, and we're flying at 200 feet and the ceiling's 250 maybe. At what point do we say no? And again, this goes back to that CRM, to that crew management and everyone's ability to speak up if they're not sure what's going on or uncomfortable. Because you know you're in bad weather when it gets very quiet in the aircraft. That's something I learned up there. Yeah. It gets very quiet and you realize I should probably start talking and see what's on everyone's mind. So an example, typically we'll throw a radar up in the middle, whereas normally it's in front of the pilot. We'll put it up in the middle so the guys in the back can see. Now they're looking out their window seeing gray or black, and now they can see what we're seeing. So those decision gates are something that you can talk about, and you can say if we reach 0.5 and we're at 200 feet and we can't get lower, we're going to turn around. But it's another thing to actually exercise that decision once you get there, and you're not waiting until it's too late. And I've run into that before where I say, hey, if we get over this bay and it's not looking like we'll be able to get it at 400 feet, we're going to turn around. And I get there and I go, well, I don't know. Maybe let's just go see what another half mile looks like. And I've had a pilot check me and be like, hey, you said you're going to turn around. Roger.
That's cool.
Correct.
Yeah, I think people are just willing to you said, go check it out. Like,
stick your nose in it as a term,
right? Let's just go see what it looks like. Like, really, do we really need to go see what it looks like, or are there indicators that we can see now from the ground, based on all the information we have now, to be like, you know what, I don't need to go look at it. I know I don't need to go.
Right.
Saying no, having the goal and the fortitude to say no, I think is so important for aviators. You talk about, not just for you but for the crew itself. It's so important to have that ability to say no.
Yep. Yeah, I've learned that my number one job, no matter who is in trouble or in distress or what the mission is, the number one job is to get your crew, yourself, and your aircraft home safely. And, I care about the aircraft less than I care about Zach, right?
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
So
I
got you.
It is Zach. He's a good dude, man.
Yeah, I'm glad you survived the hot tub incident.
We are too.
I said no yesterday on my first deployment, for example. They wanted me to deploy to that boat that we were hosted to, Sarasota Fire, and they had 8 people on it. And that's a small little center console. People, yeah. And they were like, hey, we want to deploy your swimmer, have him swim on, and then he'll help me guide the trail lines. And I was like, No, like I'm not. You can figure it out. If you botch the first one, okay, I'll go down. But we're not going to put a 9th body on what, a 26-foot vessel. There's nowhere to move. There's like, I was surprised they even got the basket down there.
Yeah,
but they just kept jam packing all these people like ants, and I was like, I'm not.
Yeah.
We're not going to add another person to that mess of pile.
Follow up on what Nate's been talking about. You just did, but even further about you as a crew member in the back, your role and your voice, and how important that is to these decisions.
Thank you to our sponsor, Precision Aviation Group. Mission-critical operators and fleet managers rely on Precision Aviation Group as a worldwide leading rotor and fixed-wing MRO provider. PAG provides tip-to-tail solutions in 4 MRO segments: avionics, components, engines, and manufacturing DER services. A single point of contact gives you access to over 150 million in inventory globally, 24/7. Just call 800-537-2778. Precision Aviation Group. Others sell parts. We sell support.
I think a lot of people can say, and especially, in my position, say they'll never say no on a deployment, or they'll always speak up when there's some, a pilot or you're flying in something you don't like. But the reality is it's very hard. Even with the relationship that we talked about and all that stuff, it's very hard, especially if you're new, but even if you're older, to be that voice to say, hey, like, what's going on? Like, I'm not comfortable with this. I've had positions at this unit where I wish I would have spoken up, and I wish I would have said something. And it's just, we got through it, luckily, but it's a learning point that I'll take through the rest of my career of just saying I should have, and not hopefully make that same mistake again.
Yeah, we all have those. I know I do. I've got several over the years where it's one of my biggest regrets at work. It was not saying no to something, and I got pushed, and I tried to alter course and say, well, I could do it, but I need this person. No, they're going home right now. You got to take this person. I'm like, okay. One of my biggest regrets. Nothing bad happened. Completed the mission. Everything's fine. But I regret it because I didn't speak up. Do you have those? You have some?
You know what? My unit was very good about, this culture of if you're not comfortable, say something.
Yeah.
So even as a TFO, I can think of the first time we went on a mission. It was a patrol mission with a foot pursuit. And it was Santa Ana winds.
Yeah.
And we're flying out by the 15 freeway in the Cajon Pass, which is the mouth of where these winds just tumble. And we're flying, and I'm looking over the pilot, and the controls are, he's like doing this thing, and I'm scared to death. I'm a new TFO, and I'm like, hey, turn around. Because in my mind, I wasn't going to be effective as a TFO. I'm too concerned about the turbulence in the aircraft. So, I think luckily for me, our culture was supportive of that. I guess I had a different experience. Not that your culture was different, but
it probably was. That's the thing. It is a culture thing. I mean, if you can say it freely without hesitation and say, no, I don't think so, you're in a good culture. It wasn't when the incident I'm thinking of, we weren't there. And I never let that happen to me again. I mean, at all at the unit. But I will say this. I've talked about this in classes for years, and risk classes have written about it. Last week, I thought something during a brief, and I didn't say anything because I wasn't even going on the flight. I was standing in the back listening to the brief, and I saw something, not a huge thing. I'll tell you what it was. It was a noisy hangar with aircraft running, and we were trying to talk. And there's a group of like 6 or 7 people, and our photographer's giving them, this is what we got to accomplish. I'm standing out just outside that circle, and I can't hear him because of the noise. And later on, I said, you know what, we got to stop that. We should have stopped that and gone in the classroom that was from here to that wall. The classroom was right there. It would have been easy to solve that problem. And I just thought, they're all listening. I guess they can hear it. And Brent's response to me was, you should have said something. And he's right. He's right. I hate saying that. And I hate saying that. You're right. He's right. I should have said, hey, I know I'm not involved in this flight or in this brief, but time out. Hey, let's take it to the classroom. That's simple. Guess what would have happened? We would have all gone in the classroom. There's no hesitation. It wasn't a big deal. We weren't on a time crunch. I didn't speak up. And so now, granted, I'm not in the realm of aviation every day anymore, but that's been bothering me. You know, same as the incident that I was referring to. It bothers me. I should have. Why didn't you? You preached this, and you said it, Zach. It's hard.
It is.
It's hard to speak up, even if you're among friends and colleagues. Sometimes you're going, I'm sure that's fine, or he's got it. Man, I trust Mr. Jones here. I trust him 100%. Okay, but you just saw something that you should have said something about, right? It's hard. It's hard, but it's a good conversation, and it just shows you we're all human, and that's what the problem is.
Definitely.
You know, it's that we're human, and we don't want to hurt feelings. We take things and say, it's not that big a deal. You know, it's not a big deal till it's a big deal.
Yeah.
You know, saying, I'm sure. What ours that we used to say was to new tactical flight officers, a tower, wires. If you see it, you better say something. Don't say, I'm sure he sees that tower. Because when we hit it and we're going down, your last thoughts are going to be, I should have said, did you see that tower? You know?
Yeah.
No, we're not going to get to that point because I want you to speak up. You're not insulting me. If I already see it, I'm going to say, hey, I got it. Thanks. And that's the culture that we're talking about. So it sounds to me like the culture is great. And even though it is, it still tests you, doesn't it?
So I had the same culture in both my units that, you know, it was speak up. Yeah, you know, there's no rank, there's no seniority or whatever, but even now, especially as a new swimmer who's just in the back, and then you might have a seasoned pilot and you're like, okay, like exactly what you said, he knows what he's doing. And even now you're like, you know, you go to a new unit and you're like, maybe this is just how they operate down here. I don't know.
Yep.
No one else will say anything about this.
Especially as the new guy.
Yeah.
You know, you're going, I'm just a new guy.
No, it's difficult. It's something that we try and preach a lot to the BAs we bring up and the swimmers and stuff like that. And it's getting better, I think.
Yeah.
A lot of the new guys are seeming to have no problem with it. But, you know, and if they do have a problem and something else happens, then they'll bring it to, you know, me as the kind of middle management guy, and we can bring it to the pilots if we have a better relationship with them.
There you go.
We go
find a way,
there.
right? Find a way. It's great. You can't talk about this enough, and you can't strive to get better enough. There's always a way to get better. And again, it's because we're human, and we let emotion get involved instead of just being blunt. Because, you know, sometimes being blunt comes across the wrong way, and you go, what a jerk, you know? I don't want to be the jerk. But maybe I'm saving somebody. You know, I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm trying to point something out. It might get perceived that way, but good conversation. I love it. Zach, tell us about the Dominican Republic. You had a pretty unique, well, I'm not going to say what it is. I don't know if it's unique. It sure looks unique to me, to us that aren't in here. But you had a rescue that you were involved in 80 miles offshore in the Dominican Republic. Tell us about that.
Yes, so we got launched. It was our last full day deployed down to up at, you know, Great Anagua in the Bahamas. And a cruise ship had picked up 6 survivors in a raft, and they had said that their boat had gone down trying to sail from Dominican Republic to Turks and Caicos, and that there were 6 other people in the water. So we get launched, and luckily it ended up being the best decision we ever made. Was we said, these guys probably don't speak English, so we brought along the DEA agent who was stationed in Puerto Rico, and he was from Puerto Rico, so he spoke Spanish. Just in case. The search area we got was nowhere close. We flew over a bunch of debris on our way, searched for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. And they said, all right, you didn't find them, you can go home. We were like, okay, well, we'll just swing by that area of debris that was obviously the ship on our way back to Great Nagua. And a very seasoned flight mech, she immediately said, yeah, there's people in the water. And there were 6 Dominicans that had lashed together like boards and pallets and put old life jackets through them, so they were floating. But I mean, they were chest deep in the water with 6 guys on just these paddles. I still have the picture on my phone and found them. I changed out in the back of the plane and did a free fall, and swimming up to them, it was probably, I'd say 7 to 8 foot rollers just in the middle of the ocean, and it was a beautiful day. Stunning. It was 70 foot visibility in the water, and the whole time swimming up, I was just like, this is an absolute dream. The water was warm. It was great. Got up to them. They didn't really speak any English, and I just, pretty much just picked one by one whoever looked the worst. I went oldest, youngest, or who was like barely hanging on, and kind of triaged them in that way. Tried to describe the best I could, just float on your back, let me do all the work. Everyone else just stay here. And it worked out great. I just took them one by one back into the plane, did a basket for every single one of them. Got a little trophy life ring buoy that we got to ride on, which, I mean, you guys have been to the shop. We like our trophies. They were all pretty much naked and just in shorts or pants, no shirts. They'd been out there for, I think probably at the end was probably 18 hours. They would have never been found, without a doubt. And we landed, brought them back to Dominican Republic, all safe and sound, very dehydrated. But the huge saving grace was the DEA agent in the back that did speak English, or did speak Spanish, because obviously that's something we kind of talk about as a group, but it gets missed a lot, that I'm in the water dealing with them there. The flight mech is dealing with them, getting them in the cabin. But then once he or she puts them in their place, she's now back focused outside the cabin, back on me for the next one in this case. So who knows what these guys are doing, or moving around. It's a lot for the flight mech and potentially the pilots who are stuck up in the cockpit to be dealing with all this stuff while trying to complete the hoists. But the crew absolutely knocked it out of the park. 6 lives saved.
So let me ask you this, a little bit more specifics. So you did a free fall into the water.
Did a free fall.
How far you're away from it a little bit because of rotor wash, I would guess. What's the distance you're going out, grabbing them, and coming back into the area where you're going to basket them?
It was about 75 yards.
Okay.
Each
way.
Run. Each run.
One way.
I jumped in, swam over, talked to him for a little bit, got a little bit of a lay of the land of what's going on. Is someone got a broken leg? Is there anything else? And that's what they teach you in school. Is there anyone else out here? Is anyone hurt? That's like the start of the triage. Okay, right. Everyone's just tired and dehydrated. All right, then I can kind of pick and choose who I want relatively. And then so it was 75 yards back to the plane, back to the...
Wow.
Yep.
Division I swimmer kicked into gear there, baby. Oh, my God, just thinking about that. That's amazing. But it's so neat that you remember the day and the water and going, God, it's beautiful here. And you're saving lives while you truly love your job, Zach.
It's funny how I've talked to some of these guys about it, and that case the other day, that was Steve's first case, and I guess he trucked after this vessel for about 20 minutes before he got picked up by the helicopter and relocated, which is not a bad move. But my first case in the water, I remember I was so jacked up. I was amped, and I just full sprint after this sailboat. And it was not drifting as far as this other case, but I caught it, and I threw up everywhere. I caught a huge gulp of water, had just gassed myself, and then had to get the guy in the water. And then that was like the real, okay, now I have to use my energy because now I'm towing this person. So you do learn a lot on that mistake for myself of, okay, these guys are floating. They're not going to drown right now with me swimming to them. I don't have to gun it. This is going to be 6 laps with survivors. Those are things I've
that was
taken over the year.
That was your
experience over the years.
Kicking in, going, okay, I don't have to run around with my hair on fire. I can slow down, kind of like what you were talking about.
Yeah.
I don't have to chase this guy. I got a radio.
Yeah.
And I can say where he's going. That's amazing. You transport some amazing people in the back, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, really, that is just no exaggeration. That is really incredible. Well done, Zach. I
appreciate it.
I'm so glad.
It's a blessing. It was a dream case for anyone in school because it wasn't It wasn't real crazy, but
Yeah.
it sounds crazy. There's a little bit of swell. You got to do a free fall, and it was just beautiful weather.
No sharks.
No sharks. No.
As far as you know.
Just stunning Caribbean water.
That is wild. Very cool. Nate, back to you. We talked about this before, that we were going to give this to you, and we ask everybody this, basically. Most impactful incident you've been involved in as a pilot, and you get to decide what impactful means. Everybody looks at it differently. It's impactful to you, or it can be impactful to someone else.
Whether your mission is saving lives or servicing high-value assets, Onboard Systems Hoist stays ready to assist. Features such as single-point payout reduce the potential for hoist-induced load swings, enhancing overall safety. For more information, go to hoist-winch.onboardsystems.com.
Sure. Yeah. I thought about this one for a while. I've been lucky in Clearwater to experience a lot of great missions, from SAR to law enforcement, good and bad. And I think the most impactful would be I was lucky enough to be present here when Hurricane Ian hit back in 2022, which was an enormous storm that caused unfathomable damage down in the Fort Myers area and across the state. And that was impactful because it wasn't just one crew, it wasn't just one helicopter going out. It was the entire air station. And I think up until about 48 hours prior to this storm hit, we were still making the decision at the air station on whether or not we're going to have to relocate. Because if you remember, it came up the Gulf, and then the track went south. Eventually, it looked like it was going to be a direct hit here. So the air station mobilized, sent every aircraft to the east coast of the state. Every crew, families, dependents, pets, they moved the entire air station. And we just expected this hangar to get removed. And then it was just a matter of, what are we going to do after this storm passes? And I've never flown into a hurricane or responded to a hurricane. And it was just luck of the draw. The way we kind of set the air station up at this forward operating site was put crews together, your crews A through H, for example, and here's your order that you're going to get sent out. And we know we've got helicopters and people, and we're going to figure out what to do tomorrow after the storm hits. I was lucky enough to be the first of two helicopters to make the first contact. And I say that there was a crew the night prior who was the actual duty standing crew that night. They flew some amazing cases in the storm overnight. These two crews, we were the first to fly across the state about 5 a.m. and actually assess the damage as the storm was still trucking across the east coast of the state. And it was amazing because you don't know, how do you plan for that? We're used to getting a call and saying, hey, there's a boat on fire, or there's a boat sinking, or there's somebody missing. And you're going here to do X, Y, or Z. And in this case, you've just got a team, and you brief up, and you put as much fuel in the plane as you can, and you fly out, and you say, well, hey, we'll go see what it looks like, and we'll figure it out from there. So I remember flying across the state, and it's still blowing about 50 knots across the state, which isn't crazy. Luckily, the weather played ball for us. It was about 700-800 foot ceilings, and we didn't have too much to deal with. But as we got towards the west coast of Florida, all the power's out, so all the towers are unlit. So extra hazards we're not used to. And I remember our plan with the two crews when we met the night before, we said, we'll go over there, do a hasty search, look for flashlights, anyone waving their arms. We should also check out key points of infrastructure. So pretty quickly, one of the first things we saw on night vision goggles coming across the Fort Myers area was the Sanibel Island Bridge, which was a pretty populated island that it was known people were riding the storm out, and sections of the bridge were completely destroyed. So that was one of our first indicators. Everyone that's on this island is isolated, and they're stranded, whether they know it yet or not. So kind of adrenaline kicked in at that point to go and look for folks and see where the flooding is and where the houses are destroyed. And almost immediately we saw flashing lights from windows and homes, and people kind of sticking their heads out to let us know. So, the first priority there is to get rotor noise in the area. Let them know that folks are here, and then that'll get them to come out and start signaling. So we started seeing flashes just all down the coast. I was in the left seat flying. The co-pilot was in the right, and we picked a house where we saw lights, and it was a kind of about a half flooded street with trees on either side and power lines, which, we're used to hoist in a maritime environment. So one of the things we talked about was, hey, we're going to be in urban areas, so we need to focus on all these new hazards. I'm sure you saw when you're hoisting over the boat, every time you pick someone up, you go back and left. That's one thing. Hey, no more back and left, because you'll strike a power line. And one of the most impactful images I remember is as my crew was doing the Lord's work and picking up a few folks from this street, was I remember looking out, and it's not quite first light yet, and I remember looking on my goggles and seeing this rooftop out my window, because I can only do so much while they're working. And as the light started to come up, I realized that rooftop is sitting on the ground, and this house that it had come from is about a block and a half down the road from us. And that's when you start to get those first light cues, and you realize the significance of the damage, and that this house has been strewn across this entire roadway, and you just start to wonder, oh man, what else is out there? So we started out with 2 aircraft, and then we didn't have cell service, but eventually I got a bar and was able to text back to our operations center back on the East Coast and just say, we just send helicopters. Yeah. I just tried to get one text out because they were looking for updates, and we had no comms. So they kind of rallied the troops back there, started sending more aircraft out. It was an awesome day as a helicopter crew. I think that day my crew rescued 10 people and 6 or 7 pets. And it was from everywhere from these flooded roadways to a sailboat stuck in the intercoastal waterway. As the storm surge was receding, there was an individual on a sailboat there. So our rescue swimmer, Brian, had to swim through that. And I remember after we dropped this first group of survivors off at a hockey arena in the parking lot, I remember looking out, and he was in a puddle splashing himself. And he told us his skin was starting to burn because of all the fuel and pollutants that were in the water. And probably the neatest hoist we did that whole day was a boat that was in a tree.
Jeez.
And we had gotten this, we were about ready to bingo and head back, and we decided to go look in the mangroves inland. We figure all the storm surge was just up here. Let's go check and see if anyone's stuck in the trees. And sure enough, there's boats in the trees, elevated above the water line. And we wound up picking up a couple out of a boat that was still attached to its dock. It had just broken free, floated inland, was sitting on top of a tree. And this couple had a pet what we found out was a 6-foot python in a pillowcase that they wound up bringing up into the helicopter with them. And so they got out of there safe with their python. And what an awesome day that was. But to see that level of destruction firsthand and be able to make a real impact, not only as a crew, but to see all these other aircraft. The National Guard came out. You had a couple local aviation enthusiasts that maybe should have stayed home, but they were out there. So you have all these new unique hazards that you're not used to. It was like a wasp nest of aircraft for a while there. And to see the teamwork and the communication. And there were no aircraft mishaps that day, as far as I know of, and a lot of lives saved.
Wow. That's pretty impactful.
Yeah.
I mean, for you, for every victim that you brought up, for your crew, wow. For the python, I mean, that's amazing. Going into the unknown, too. I mean, you kind of have an idea, but once you got there, it was even worse than you had pictured, huh?
Yeah. It was hard to sleep the night before, knowing that we have an alarm set for 4:30, and when we get up, we're going to go and do something.
It's amazing.
And luckily, I had a family member had done something similar, and I was able to give them a call the night prior and just say, what do we even do?
Yeah.
You guys will figure it out.
That is just amazing. You think about all the work that you do and all the things that you can get thrown into. That adds a whole different element. I mean, because you number one, you don't know what you're going to see, and like boats up in trees, and did you find yourself thinking, I want to do more and I can't because I'm limited on how many people can get in here. I'm limited on fuel. I'm limited on all these. You have limitations.
Oh, immediately.
Yeah.
Immediately. The first home we went to, I remember there were 4 occupants, and they remember. I remember my rescue swimmer Brian calling up on the radio and saying, "Hey, there's 4 people here. They're asking if we can bring their dogs." And we just arrived full of gas. And I asked how many dogs are we talking about. He said 4 labs. And I looked in the back, and I was like, we just got here. I want to know who else is out there talking. Zach's talking about triaging. These folks are fine for now. And I said no. As much as I want to have a helicopter full of dogs, that's a dream of mine.
Yeah.
I said no.
Not today.
And 2 of the individuals opted to stay with the pets, and then 2 elderly individuals who probably should have gotten to a better site. We brought along with us, and by doing so, save some space, save some weights, and continue our journey and
That's
look
a
for
tough
others.
decision.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be. We'd both be
I'd
torn.
rather take dogs than people most of the time. Like, you all stay here. We'll take the dogs first.
We'll be back if we can. What are their names?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh man, that is really that's tough. We're getting close to wrapping things up here, but I do want to ask Zach something. Worst weather that you've had to deploy in, and the follow up to that, I'll give you ahead of time so you can formulate your answer in the way you want. Did rescue swimmer training, all your training, prepare you for that?
Like I said, I think the worst weather I've probably flown in is I did hurricane ops. Nothing nearly as cool. I've never gotten able to be lucky enough to hoist unlucky people in hurricanes. Mm-hmm. But I was the first crew, my first year down here. I can't remember what hurricane it was, but we were relocated in West Palm Beach, and I was the first plane to come back to the air station, and we had hit the bands following the storm that was still coming up and hitting the east coast of Florida. And it ended up, that was the one that hit up near Yankeetown. I can't remember. We ended up flying up there, and it was all swamped and stuff, but that was the rockiest, windiest, rainiest flight I've ever been on, where it was like, okay, like it jacks you up of like,
this doesn't feel like the rest of
what
them.
are we gonna
Yeah.
Man, they're super shaky up there. No, it was all the weather. And it was fun. We stopped here, grabbed another swimmer, and then flew up and just like blanketed the area. And luckily, the Cajun Army was there. They needed no help, which was a little bit of a bummer for me. But that was probably the worst weather I've flown in, just on the backside of that storm, because we go out, like Mr. Jones said, like it's pretty immediate, and hurricane ops are very stressful, not only for the hoisting but the anticipation of everyone the night before saying, everyone wants to be that first crew there. Everyone wants those stories. Everyone wants, to a certain extent, to be in a scenario where their skills and their training can be tested in these ways to see how they fare. So everyone is chomping at the bits to get there. And that's, for me at least, one of the more anxiety-ridden parts that I'm like, oh, God. Oh, this guy's going before me. Like, everyone is very much working as a crew, and it's all fun and jokes. But all of our training, depending on where you are, you just adapt, and it's very easy to adapt to certain places. Like, I'm sure I've never been up stationed in Alaska, but I'm sure if I went up to Alaska, it would take me, a little bit of time, but I would adapt to that weather, and I would adapt to that environment. Same with down here. If anyone's never been in a hurricane, and it's the job of the crews and the older guys to make sure everyone is up to the standard for what they could encounter at that unit.
You read my mind, because I was going to ask you, can you imagine a North Carolina swimmer and you end up in Alaska? That would be some culture shock and some body shock after all those years.
I know a lot of them. Yeah. They loved it.
Yeah. That's what's diversity, I mean, for the same job where you could end up in different parts of the country, and it's a whole new realm for a pilot, for a swimmer, for a flight mechanic. I mean, it just really changes the perspective of the job completely, just because of the temperature alone,
I do think that does. Usually there's certain units where if someone's coming from there, it gives you a false sense, maybe not false sense, but you have a little more confidence of, okay, hey, they've seen some pretty big stuff.
Yeah.
Especially Kodiak is a big one. I would say Clearwater is a pretty big one with the amount of hours that we get here and the hurricanes and the op tempo that we have. But there are definitely certain units where if someone, a flight mech or a pilot or a swimmer, comes from garners a certain level of respect.
Yeah. Wow. This has been great. I mean, we always walk away with things that we learn. This is way above average in that category today, because this is beyond the realm that we're normally in, that we experience. Doesn't matter how many flight hours we have or how many bad guys we put in jail. We hear stories like this, and it just makes you realize, wow, there's a big world out there outside of doing left-hand donuts over South Central Los Angeles, catching bad guys. Amazing work that you guys do. And, boy, we're appreciative. John, any closing thoughts here or questions for these guys while we got them?
Yeah, a couple. I'm just always inspired by the Coast Guard. I've always admired what you guys do, the mission set you guys have. And I think the one thing that resonates with me is that the idea that the one emotion that's more powerful than fear is hope. And the Coast Guard, to me, the aircraft, the word U.S. Coast Guard signifies hope for people, and disasters, sunken vessels, sinking vessels, whatever scenario you can think of. It's the one service that really drives people to survive. That thought of hope just in the aircraft by itself is powerful. As you guys talk through the different scenarios you guys train for and prepare for and respond to, I'm just humbled to sit here and talk to you guys. Like Jack said, it's a big world that we're not accustomed to being part of and hearing about. So thank you guys for letting us come in to your hangar and talk to you guys about your careers. It's really cool.
Thanks for having us.
Been a blast.
This was fantastic. Really, really educational, and it makes me appreciate you guys even more, because we had a lot of respect for the Coast Guard coming into this, because we have an idea about what you do. I mean, everybody has an idea of what you do, but once you get into that aircraft and you fly around it and you watch the pilots, you watch the crew, you listen to them, the coordination, the teamwork, you go, this is beyond what even I believed happened here. And the professionalism and the like we talked about, the confidence that we had just from listening and watching you guys, my respect is through the roof for both of you. Two very different jobs in the same aircraft. One needs the other to accomplish the mission. I mean, get back to the teamwork that you brought up earlier, Nate. I mean, how important is that to you guys? It's top of the list. It makes sense.
That's right.
So, Nate, thank you very much for sharing your story. Thank you to your family, the entire Jones family, for all their service. My goodness, that was really cool, just reading it and then hearing about it. Zach, thank you for joining us. Your story was great, too. I mean, not too many. That first near drowning that ends up being on the show here, I mean, it ends up being a rescue swimmer saving other lives, a lifeguard, and then rescue swimmer. Amazing. So glad that lifeguard was there that day.
Yeah.
That you were able to think about that for a second. That lifeguard's there that day saves you. Now think of all the things that you did as a lifeguard and in these aircraft, of the lives that you've saved that wouldn't have been there. I mean, Zach wouldn't have been there. Pretty amazing. I mean, that's really incredible. So thank you both very much. Thank you for your service. Sir. Thanks for everything. Thanks for taking the time to join us. We're thankful and grateful for you guys being here. And with that, wow, Blades of Valor 2026 is almost a wrap.
Yep.
Pretty amazing, huh?
Yeah, it's been a wild trip. It's like helicopter camp for people that love helicopters. It's been amazing.
It has. I mean, just Palm Beach County, Broward County, Miami-Dade Fire, and now Clearwater, U.S. Coast Guard. Boy, oh boy, we are lucky. We are lucky guys to be able to hang out with people of this caliber and interview them and learn from them and create some content that others can look at and learn from too. Our listeners and readers and watchers of all the things, you're going to be amazed at what we got the past 2 weeks, and it's a great place to wrap with you two guys. So thank you for the support. Thank you, MHM. Thank you, all our sponsors. Thank you again to Massif. We've had a great tour. We hope to do it again. We're already planning and talking and hoping that'll happen again and make a fourth annual. But Blades of Valor is a wrap from Clearwater, Florida. So from the Hangar Z, everybody stay safe out there, and we'll catch you the next time on the Hangar Z podcast.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Hangar Z podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to hear more stories that promote the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation. Lastly, stand by for a message after a word from our sponsors. Cheers.
Thank you to our sponsor, Precision Aviation Group. Mission-critical operators and fleet managers rely on Precision Aviation Group as a worldwide leading rotor and fixed-wing MRO provider. PAG provides tip-to-tail solutions in 4 MRO segments: avionics, components, engines, and manufacturing DER services. A single point of contact gives you access to over 150 million in inventory globally, 24/7. Just call 800-537-2778. Precision Aviation Group. Others sell parts. We sell support.
Whether your mission is saving lives or servicing high-value assets, Onboard Systems Hoist stays ready to assist. Features such as single-point payout reduce the potential for hoist-induced load swings, enhancing overall safety. For more information, go to hoist-winch.onboardsystems.com.
Thank you to our sponsor, Shotover. Shotover Systems is the leading developer and manufacturer of high-performance gyro-stabilized cameras with advanced real-time AR mapping and mission management, all backed by unparalleled custom training and support. Now offering the M2 multi-sensor system, sole 6-axis EO/IR platform with 4K Ultra HD color and infrared technology. Ideal for law enforcement and defense. Offered with real-time AR overlays to quickly identify streets, weather, and traffic. Automated license plate recognition, 24 megapixel digital photographs, and automated steering and tracking.
Thank you for joining us for part 2 with the United States Coast Guard. These crews make an extremely high-risk job look easy. That's a result of dedication, professionalism, teamwork, courage, and training. The real-life rescue stories were riveting. We are all very fortunate that the men and women of the United States Coast Guard are prepared 24/7, 365 to respond and save lives. Thank you again to Switlik Survival Products for sponsoring this year's Blades of Valor Tour. Much of the U.S. Coast Guard survival equipment is designed and manufactured by Switlik. Go to switlik.com to learn more about this incredible company supporting aviation, marine, military, and search and rescue units. We're extremely grateful to everyone at Air Station Clearwater for the warm welcome and the amazing cooperation for our entire team. We got some amazing content, and we couldn't have done it without their cooperation. Thank you to all of them. Stay safe, and we'll catch you the next time on the Hangar Z podcast.